Hi, Carol here. I wanted to talk about how I got into the business of books. I've always enjoyed being surrounded by books, but it wasn't until I had the opportunity to work in a bookstore that I really cherished seeing all the books that were being published. And there's a lot of books that are being published even today. But that was many years ago when I started as a part-timer on Long Island for Borders Books. And it was real quick that I went up through the ranks and I ended up becoming the national events coordinator for Borders in the Park Avenue, Manhattan location, where I had the opportunity to work with as well as book authors across the country in our Borders stores. So I had the opportunity to work with a lot of big names. For instance, I worked with Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Jimmy Carter, not once but twice. And I also had the opportunity to have Kurt Vonnegut sit with me in my office signing stock while we chatted about books. And then that night he did an event at the bookstore, but he already had pre-signed the books because he apparently didn't want to have to sit there and sign and meet and greet all his fans because there were a lot of fans. But what he did when he was doing the event just before he started is he thanked me for hosting him and he pulled out magic flowers from his sleeve and he presented them to me. And I actually have a picture of him holding the flowers. I don't know if you can see it with the glare of the glass, but that's a memory I cherished when I worked at Borders. So then when Borders went out of business, I had no idea that I would ever work in another bookstore again. At that point, I had my own publishing consulting business and I was writing and I had my first novel was out, which was called Without Grace. That was published. So I was touring with that and enjoying that process and then working with other writers to get their books in shape to get published and encouraging them to take the time before they jumped into self-publishing. And I hosted events in my home, actually book discussions in my home with friends, and we called it Book in a Bottle. And we had such a good time that my friend Peggy and I decided, let's investigate the possibility of opening our own bookstore. And eventually we did. We opened up Turn of the Corkscrew Books and Wine in Rockville Center, and it was very stressful because the first 6 months that we were open, the street was closed due to construction, so we had to use all our working capital to stay afloat. It was about 4 or 5 years later that we knew we couldn't sustain staying open. But over that time, I had the opportunity to work with a number of people that were well known to you, Maria Shriver being one, Kathy Lee Gifford, Anne Rice, Nelson DeMille, and it was a lot of fun. But then when we closed the door, I continued on with my own thing, my own writing. By then, my second novel was out called Of Little Faith. And I also had been hired to write the author's guide to planning book events, since that's what I did for quite a number of years. And so I kept writing, and then now I had the opportunity to work with John Barber on a couple of books that we worked together. And I'll actually be going to Los Angeles on December 11th at the Hollywood Museum, where John and I will be signing copies of the greatest reviews I've ever read. It's a fun book, it's a fun read, and I encourage you to get a copy of it. But also what I'm going to be doing now is there's a bookstore. I can't believe it. I'm involved in another bookstore here on Long Island in Oyster Bay called Theodore's Books. And it's owned by former Congressman Steve Israel. And I couldn't be more excited. And actually my business partner, Peggy Zirin, is going to be the general manager. And we're hoping to have this opened by November 18th. That's what they're shooting for. So we hope that that goes without a glitch. And so I just wanted to give you an update on everything that's happening with me. And I thank you for listening. And I look forward to the next time I can chat with you. Take care.